Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Shockwave48 here, and welcome back to another video and more, information on My Hero Academia, Chapter 372, Season 6. Now, we're still on the goals where Shoji's fighting Spinner, Spinner gets bigger, he has quarters, yada, we got that through. We noticed that, Koda has a horn that's growing, and we know that for sure, but we also want to get to the good part of, who is going to bring out Kurogiri. Now, we know that President Mike is there too, so he's going to probably be in this scene. So, yeah. So, let's go ahead and check out this new chapter, what's going on. And, I already seen this video before, so I just thought if I just make a reaction video out of it. So, I was like, let's just do this. So, yeah. So, let's go ahead and do this. Let's check this out.
So coming off the end of the previous chapter, we saw Shoji and Koda ostensibly doing like their ultimate moves, I suppose. I mean, they might have like another true ultimate after this, considering it's not over, but this is the strongest thing that we've seen them do so far. And coming into the beginning of this chapter, we're seeing like what they are. So Shoji's move is called the Octo Expansion, where he creates like this Resident Evil arm and just launches like this massive strike. And it winds up hitting Spinner, and it seems to be affecting him for sure, but on the other side of Spinner, President Mike is also hitting him with like a sound blast. And while I appreciate the teamwork here, President Mike is still kind of like stealing Shoji's thunder in this sequence, because this is like Shoji's big moment. This is like his big fight. It's like, President Mike, go do something else. But for Koda, we're seeing that his ultimate move is also tied to like, I guess, his quirk evolution, possibly, or just what his quirk inevitably was always supposed to be, because in the previous chapter we saw him like sprout these horns, and now we're getting a flashback to when he was talking to his mother when he was younger, and she's like, Koji, one day you may also grow horns. They allow our feelings to reach animals even if they're far away. And the one other time that we saw Shoji's mom in the series, she did have those horns, so it's like, yeah, Horikoshi using the full cow here. And this essentially just gives Koda just a broader radius to use his animal manipulation ability. And his quote-unquote ultimate here is called the Hitchcock Birds. And
that's a lot of birds.
Little on the nose, Horikoshi, but it is what it is. And it just summons like a swarm of birds, and they all go after that Paranormal Liberation Front top heteromorph guy that we've been seeing intermittently throughout these last couple chapters, trying to egg on the crowd here, trying to keep them with their cause. But I guess this is Koda like defeating him, probably, because we don't see him again after this. But going further, after we see Shoji hit Spinner, he's like, what do you want to protect with that giant body and those scales of yours? And then talking to the crowd, he's like, you guys too, what do you want to protect with those amazing powers you have? Don't give in to your wounds, because then your children will be their next target. Saying like, hey, if you continue to do this, the prejudice against you is only going to get worse. Don't let revenge consume you. It's like, try to do as I am. Like, try to be better than those who have persecuted you. Because if you just react with violence like this, then you're essentially lowering yourself to where they were, and you're no better. But Spinner's like recovering here, and he's like, hatred will never disappear. Even if the heroes win this, nothing will change. And that is technically true. Like, regardless if the heroes win or lose here, it's not like everyone's just going to be cool with heteromorphs now. I mean, of course, it's better if the heroes do win, but in order for this reform to take place, it's going to take many years. And that goes into what Shoji's ultimate goal for being a hero was. He wanted to become a hero that was so cool that it would influence future generations to not have prejudice against heteromorphs anymore. And eventually it would get to a point of where everyone is accepted. But then we get another glimpse into Spinner's past as he's saying this. And he's like, even if we stay hidden on the shadows, people will still spray us with pesticide. And it's like, yeah, this apparently happened to Spinner. Like, he also faced serious prejudice, just like Shoji, although not as extreme as Shoji, I guess, but still to the point of where we could see that Spinner was clearly depressed. So that's his younger self. Part of his life. Like, he was just a shut-in playing video games. His room was just filthy. And this is another reason why Spinner was so on board with Stain's cause, and why he latched onto that and became like a Stain stan, and then eventually became a Shigaraki stan, because he just wants a cause to latch onto, something that will give him purpose. He doesn't want to be a nobody, as we'll come to find out. Hey, but real quick, guys, let's talk about Gamer Subs, because they just dropped a new flavor, and it's made by fellow content creator on YouTube, Jay Schlatt. Well, his new flavor is called milk. Yeah, that's right. It's called
what?
Milk. And I'm sure you're wondering, like, what could that possibly
What kind of
taste
name
like?
is that?
I'm curious myself, so I'm going to be trying.
That is a weird name to
time
call
here,
it for a flavored drink.
Of course, got my waifu cup that I always drink my Gamer Subs out of. Dump it in here. Well, if this is what milk actually tastes like, then sign me up, because it's pretty good. So guys, if you're interested in getting some Milk or other gamer subs, and maybe a
Dude,
waifu
you should really
cup if they're
change the name of that.
Please check out my
Try to
link
change
in the
it to something
description,
else.
or you can just use code BIGZ when you go to the Gamer Subs website, guys. And he's like, if they attack us, we strike back. Comrades, raise your voice and follow me. And then
I can't take it anymore, Mr. Nibbles. It's always, yo, Death Knight, buff my armor. Hey, Death Knight, get your...
And then he like launches off of building and launches straight towards the hospital. And Shoji's like, he's even stronger now? My attack can even destroy concrete. And at first you're thinking like, well, that's not really that impressive. But then we also have to remember that we've kind of been desensitized by like Izuku and Bakugo, Kirishima, and all of these way overpowered characters. That they're like the outliers of the outliers that, you know, Class 1A is already comprised of. So like Shoji being able to produce an attack that can destroy concrete is still really impressive, but it's just not everybody is on the level of like the top 5 students essentially. But Spinner winds up successfully breaking through the front of the hospital here. And then he remembers back
like a dragon,
to what All For One had told him before the war started. And he's like, Kurogiri must be at the research tower. You reach him, play a recording of mine or Tomura's voice. Kurogiri's quirk will end this war. So I know I've said this many times, forgive me, but just for the people that are new here, I assume that All For One somehow knew that he would be in this situation more or less. Even if he didn't, he just thinks that Kurogiri's quirk is essential to his plan or non-plan, but in this instance at least, Spinner can have Kurogiri activate his Warp Gate quirk and break All For One / Shigaraki out of UA, where he is currently trapped, you know, having his quirks erased by Aizawa and Monoma and being, you know, severely beaten down by Izuku. So if in theory he gets out of there, he can just go full power and turn the war back in the favor of the villains, but then also using, you know, Warp Gate further, he can just bring all the villains together, which are currently, you know, scattered. But as Spinner and the heteromorphic mob are like breaking into the hospital here, they see like all of the doctors and nurses like standing united to stop them from going any further. And the heteromorphs are like seeing the doctors doing this, but they're also seeing them tending to patients and whatnot, and they're like, whoa, I didn't sign up for this. You know, I'm fighting for reform here. I'm not trying to just hurt innocent people. And this goes back to what Shoji was telling them in, I think, chapter 370, when they were like holding Shoji down, and he's like, you know, what's any of that got to do with attacking the hospital? You know, back in the first war, the heroes made sure that the patients and staff were safe before, you know, we engaged in the battle against Yujiko and the Nomus and everything. And this got through to a lot of the heteromorphs at that time. They're like, whoa, you're kind of right. And now it's just fully gone through to them. They're like, yeah, we're not about this. And they all essentially peace out. And as we see Spinner advancing through the hospital, in this sequence, he's depicted as like his younger self, like happily running. And he's like, you know, I always thought I'd be nobody, but if I reach Kurogiri, then I'll become someone. You know, look, Shigaraki, look how many people follow me. And then when he turns around, you know, nobody's there. He's just by himself now. And it goes more into like the tragic fate of Spinner. You know, this is what he's become, along with allowing All For One to give him 2 extra quirks, which turns him essentially into like this gnome thing, where he can't even speak properly. And then we see President Mike behind him, and he's like, Shoji's voice has reached them, and he won't be your trump card, referring to Kurogiri. And then in the final double spread here, we see charging Kurogiri, who's like right in front of them, and Spinner's like, you know, Kurogiri, and President Mike's like, Shirakumo, and that's where the chapter ends. And it's like, okay, so who's going to get through to him here? Is Spinner going to play the recording and like Manchurian Candidate activate Kurogiri and Warp Gate Shigaraki / All For One out of UA? Or is President Mike going to get through to him and then have Shirakumo come through once again? Because we saw that that was kind of a thing, or at least Horikoshi was setting it up to be a thing. Because when President Mike and Aizawa were first trying to get through to Kurogiri, we saw that Shirakumo was kind of coming through. He just couldn't fully do it yet. So, to be honest, I think the former is going to happen here. Like, I do think Spinner is going to play that recording, and then he is going to warp All For One / Shigaraki out of there and probably bring the villains together as well. But I think eventually Shirakumo will come through Kurogiri, and then we'll just have Shirakumo again as a hero helping them eventually, like before the series is over, but just not right now. But let me know what you think is going to happen in the comments.
I think, from my opinion, I think Shirakumo's probably going to get out of that little smoke thing, because President Mike and Aizawa knew each other from the past when they entered UA, and I don't know how he became that little purple smoke in the first place. I think this part of his quirk he has, he just can't control it, he can't get out of it. Who knows? There's probably something that's consumed that content with that kind of form, but it may happen. I mean, Kurogiri may be out, and then try to get Shigaraki out of UA, and eventually the heroes are going to be table turn against the villains. So it might, who knows? But we'll just have to see. I mean, I'm looking forward to see what happens next because I want to, make sure Kirk Curry doesn't, release, gets out, because if they do, the heroes are in big trouble, because that's something that no one ever witnessed before. I mean, they know how his weakness is. It's just fighting him like that is just not gonna work, because he can make portals, he can teleport out, he can teleport people back into himself. It's pretty complicated, but yeah. Okay, guys, that's it for today's video. I'm looking forward to see what happens next in the next chapter, and of course, thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys later. Stay tuned, guys. It's Shockwave 48. Thanks for watching.